Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome to Heichaltzu Ois Vav, where we're going to fabring. It's quite a haskalah dika ois. That means if you've gone through it, it's quite esoteric. And earlier in the Maimer Ois Gimel Daled, we started getting very personal, sinas chinam, and understanding where it comes from, and ego and yeshus. And then Ois Hey Vav Zayin, he goes on I wouldn't call it a tangent, but he flies right back up to Haskalah, and then Ois Ches, he starts getting it a little more relevant, and obviously that's where the juice of the Maimer really takes off in a very deep level. But obviously, if the Rebbe Rashab felt that it's important for us to understand these fundamentals before we move forward, it's vital that we not only just go through it, but we actually fabring it. So Shmuly, my first question to you will be, if you want to understand the nakud of this ice, what's this ice coming to tell?
Right. So as you mentioned, the concepts here are a bit deeper and abstract. We're speaking about the etzem hanefesh, the koiches atzmim, the essential powers, the revealed, the way the essential powers come from the source, etc. We won't go into the details that much. You can see it inside the chapter. But also, as you mentioned, even when we sort of get a bit abstract, we're not running away. We're not running away from the Maimer. On the contrary, and that's the way Chassidus Chabad works. It's specifically in these deeper ideas. It's when we rise above the surface level of the conversation and we start digging much deeper into the soul, where we really figure out what is happening here. What are we experiencing? In the subconscious, obviously, when we go to the subconscious, it's a bit more abstract because we don't relate to it that much. But ultimately, that's where it all boils down to, and that's really the source of the solution for the experiences. Now, which solution are we talking about? Which experience are we talking about? I would say perhaps in this chapter, what we're trying to emphasize is when we speak about getting along with someone else, as we spoke about in the last few chapters, rising above oneself, bringing bittul into your life. And as we emphasized last week, you don't really have to search elsewhere for bittul. Bittul exists even within you and inside of you. We have the capacity for bittul. Yet, even with all of that, at the end of the day, bittul means I'm not being myself. Yes, I was created with the capacity to not be myself, but then where am I? Where am I in the conversation? Where am I in this relationship? I'm putting myself on the side. So what I believe the Rebbe Rashab is saying here is bittul, though commonly understood as the ability to transcend oneself and go out of myself, but what really bittul is, it allows me to go into a deeper place of myself. It is able to find within myself personality, opinions, perspective that at least initially seems contrary to what I believe and who I am. And through that, I can connect with somebody else. Meaning, it's not only the ability to leave my perspective and enter into the world of someone else's perspective, it allows me to find within myself other personality types, other perspectives, etc., even when they might be the exact opposite of what I experience day to day.
So he obviously gives, my dugmais, examples of physics. And we both don't claim to be physics professors on water and fire. But in Avodah...
Speak for yourself.
Okay, fine. But we're both Holy Tyranics, so unless you went to a different...
100%. Yeah.
Proud Holy Tyranics.
Proud ones.
So... In Nefesh Adam, in people, in personality, what does it mean that, let's say you're having a debate, often when Lubavitchers talk about debate, it's like very generic, the same Mashiach, but that's the smallest of debates. I think personalities, we always clash. In other words, everyone always moves it to there. But sometimes you just clash with a different person's personality. Some people are just not your type. Like he says, like we explain in Ois Dalet, your Metzias threatens my Yeshus. So now I'm coming and I'm seeing that you and I are not that different, that I have your koiches within me. What does that mean? How does that actually play out?
Right. So it is tempting to view human beings as boxes. 5 personality types, 16 personality types, 100 personality types, whatever the exact number is. Now, what is so tempting about it, besides the fascination with personalities and psychology? The temptation is that it brings us a sense of clarity, a sense of belonging, a sense of, oh, I found my niche. This is who I am. This is who you are. It makes sense, right? In all our relationships, there's so many complications and clashes that can get very, very frustrating. Why can't I get along with you? Why can't you get along with me? Why do this couple, why can't they stop fighting? Why does this community, why is it always clashing on every single topic? So you have people that say, there's a machlekes over here. It happens to be that we're having machlekes in 10 different things, right? Anyone that thinks a little bit deeper understands that that's a very schwache answer. It's a very weak answer. And when you understand that it boils down to personality, it's like, oh, it makes sense. So everyone in this party has this personality. Everyone in this party has that personality. And the husband is this, and the wife is that. And the parent is this, and the child is that. And as frustrating as it is that there's so many, that they are so different personalities, it brings a certain calm and clarity to what's going on. Oh, and then you're able even to project. Put these two people in this situation. When this argument will come up, they'll be here and they'll be there. Right? So everything starts making sense. Hence the strong temptation. And we all do it in one way or another, some more, some less. Yet, in truth, the human being is so much more complex than that. Yes, we do have our box. That's part of, we do live in Olam Hazeh, we're part of a general box. Each one has our individual box. At the same time, it's rules that are meant to be broken. Meaning it's a box that exists, but we live within and outside of that box. In general, when Chazal describe the human being is the human being is a very complex individual and has the highest powers. We have the neshama, part of God, kiviyachol. On the other hand, we have our base instincts and our very, very low elements. We have nefshali kiss, the godly soul, the animal soul. Each one of them has many different powers and many different personalities. We're complex beings. So while, yes, we do have perhaps our primary personality, which is our facade and our image that we project to the world and even to ourselves, we are so much deeper than that. There are so many nuances. There are so many changes that we personally go through and can experience in our lives. How many times do we know a person that was living in a certain perspective for years? And anyone that knew this person, like, this is who they are. This is what they'll be for life. You meet them 5 years, 10 years later, completely different individuals. Why? Things happened. They went through different experiences. Maybe it was major trauma. Maybe it was some great news that happened, something great that happened in their lives. And people develop, people change. Why do people change? Why do people develop? You don't develop in something that you're not. You develop means that you express from within yourself, you find within yourself parts, ideas, personalities that you weren't in tune with yet. Yet they are there. It is all there. Some more expressed, some more dormant.
It's interesting. I read there's a book of Fabrengens. There's one from the Michal Tayeb, and there's one from Shapsi Slavatitsky. And I remember I read the book of Shapsi, and he gave there a very interesting mashal. He talks about Columbus discovering America. And he asks, Columbus didn't, like America always existed. What's his mila? His mila is that he exposed it to the world. He didn't create anything, he exposed something. And he says, Olam Katan Zeh Adam, each and every one of us has a universe within ourselves. But most of our lives, we only live on a few continents within our own reality. In other words, you grew up in a certain place, so that brought out certain parts of your personality. You're male, you're female, you went to this yeshiva, that yeshiva, you got married to this person, that person, etc. And then certain parts of your personality come, but there's other parts of your personality that you don't even know exist. And he says, part of, discovering yourself is literally realizing that you're living in a tiny place, just like the people who lived in Europe and thought that the whole universe is that size. But ultimately, there's a big Welt. And the same thing as well, like often based on the chinuch I got, so I'll be taught certain ashkafas based on the home I grew up in, the yeshivas I went to, and I start convincing myself that that's the be-all and end-all of my reality. Forget about the be-all and end-all of reality outside of me, of my own reality. But really, had I lived somewhere else, or if I expose myself currently to something else, it will activate a whole different experience within me.
Right. So, very often it's tempting, especially, perhaps with, in the language of the Maimer, the Toyu personalities, people that are perhaps more extreme. Now, to be clear, Toyu has a certain, has milas. In this Maimer, obviously, we're going more in the Tikkun direction, but in Chassidus in general, we're saying Toyu is passion. Toyu is you're fully involved. You're not just toned down. So very often there's sort of this fear, which is miscategorized as strength. There's this fear of we're now discussing re-socializing, of socializing with the world, with the greater community. So that's tempting again to make this small community and stay in my little bubble. I don't have anything threatening me. Sometimes we'll call it in a place where I'm able to be proud and be able to express myself, et cetera, et cetera. Why go out there? Why hang out with others? Why join and have achdus with other communities when it puts us all at a lower flame? We have to tone ourselves down. We can't be who we really are. And it is important that everyone has their group of friends and everyone has space where they're able to be who they are, express themselves. But day to day, just to go out there and just be part of that world, it's tough. It's tough. In extreme levels, people could have high levels of social anxiety to the extent that they just can't leave their homes. They can't be with other people, which ultimately boils down to the inability to create space for other experiences, right? But really what's going on, it's not just that you're being selfish or that you're incapable of accepting others. What you're doing is you're shutting yourself down. You're incapable of going inward any deeper than where you started off. Not that you're incapable of going outward and finding things outside of you. You're incapable of going inside and finding those other experiences, those other perspectives.
Not interesting, because not exactly what you were saying, but I remember as a bacher, in the Maimer that he references over here, he references to Toras Chaim. So I went to check out the Toras Chaim, and he talks over there about the midas of a katan and the midas of a gadol. That the midas of a katan, it's absolutely like there's no seichel to calm it down. It's raw. It's all over the place. On the other hand, you could switch midas one to another very quickly versus an adult, because their mind is a bit involved as well, therefore they don't switch. But I remember as a bacher, whatever, when it comes to the politics of Mashiach, so I was like on one extreme of the pendulum. And I remember a certain stage where in yeshiva, and there were two groups within the yeshiva, each one fighting their battle. And I remember them ripping down my signs and me ripping down their signs. And at one stage I realized...
You actually went through that stage? You must have learned in the yeshivas.
I did say which side.
You must have been in the yeshivas. Yeah.
And I remember realizing both of us are terrified. We're both doing it out of fear. We both think we're so different. But ultimately, me and my feeble mind, I'm convinced that if they see that about the Rebbe, and if they connect themselves to that campaign, they're going to break out. And they're looking at me the same way. And ultimately, it's nothing to do with Chassidishkeit. It's two people who created a narrow version of what life is and this like ridiculous fear. But ultimately, we're exactly the same thing. We're just playing on two different sides of the same coin. So ultimately, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you look at the other person, you look, oh gosh, that guy is like totally leilafia kavana, and he's totally messing it up, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, emotions-wise, you're pretty much playing out of the same rule book. You just happen to go to this yeshiva or that yeshiva. You grew up with these parents or that parents, and now you're just extremizing it. Sorry for that verb. You're taking it to the extreme in your own way, convincing yourself that the other person's totally heipach hakavana and you're lefia kavana. But it's 9 out of 10 times, you're exactly the same thing. You're just screaming different mantras.
Right. So what happens is like this. And this is what the Maimer is telling us. What the Maimer is saying is, right now you're standing and fighting, your battle. You have your opinion, and there's another opinion out there. You look at that opinion, or you look at that personality type, and it's like, hey, this is beyond. I can't. So first of all, it's important to know, if it was something that you had no connection with, and you would not be able to find it within yourself, it wouldn't bother you. You see animals going around and doing their thing. Behemoths. A dog. Dogs do what dogs do. Whatever it is, everyone's doing their thing. You see some other culture completely out of the, from a totally different planet, or a different continent, doing their thing. It doesn't bother you. What bothers you? What bothers you is something that you struggle with within, right? You struggle within yourself. Now, very often the struggle isn't on a conscious level. If someone will find you, in the most vulnerable state, you'll never admit that you're struggling with it. Perhaps you will, perhaps you won't. It's possible that you won't, because you don't know of it. But what angers you, the fact that there's something else that's angering you, that very possibly there's something there that you can relate to on some level. And that itself is that fear. When you see another person, it's a fear of exposing it within yourself. It's a fear that you might fall for that, etc. But that fear itself can really become the source for the solution of dealing with it. Meaning, when you boil down the fear and you're like, one second, why is this bothering so much? Oh, because I could also relate to it. Oh, if you could also relate to it, so you could calm down. So you also have that experience. Okay, he took it to more extreme than you, because your primary personality type is pushing you in the other direction. But it's not completely out of the blue.
Interesting.
You're able to understand.
In this ois, I was looking for it. He uses, when it talks about Eish and Mayim, so he says, V'hainu, B'pnei Eish b'mayim, the fire within water, who b'tachlis ha'helem, she'einoi nikar klal u'klal gam la'atzmai.
Gam la'atzmai, there you go.
So you're talking about the subconscious, like literally gam la'atzmai. Like, he himself doesn't even know he exists.
Right, he's not just putting up a game and telling you, no. Really? He's unaware, completely unaware. And that's really where he goes to, and Heichaltzu again and again. And especially in it's toward somewhere over there, that it's very possible you have no idea, you don't know about these things existing, and you have to go through a serious search and discussion, etc., as we'll get to. So it's there. So it's there. Once you recognize that it's there, it hurts, right? You have two people fighting. The guy's telling you, this guy I'm dealing with, such a narcissist, such a terrible person, right? Husband and wife. Impossible. You can't. What the things this person does are unreal, impossible. Now, ultimately, until the complainer, right, will come and admit on some level that they can sympathize with it on a certain level, that they themselves can find within themselves, they'll never be able to understand the other person and have a dialogue with the person. Because right now, I'm the tzaddik, you're the rasha, it's done. But for that to calm down a bit, in the letter, Rebbe's letters, very often the Rebbe says that there are very, very few machlokes. It seems that there are very few machlokes, and that it's 100% to 0. The Rebbe said it could be 95 to 5. It's 95% you're at fault, 5% the other person's at fault. 97 to 3. But the moment there is some part there, all of a sudden, you're not the total tzaddik. To come to that place, to recognize that I have what to fix as well, and I'm not the complete tzaddik here in the story, is very, very tough. Once you reach that place, all of a sudden, there can be some dialogue. Obviously, when it's a 95 to 5, the dialogue can be a bit complicated, and it won't always be a fair deal. But there's room to meet each other. Where do the 95 to 5 come? Where do I find that 5? When I find myself being able to recognize and find within myself, in the Lashon of Chassidus, Efes Kotzeo B'Shem Etzmenu, somewhat of what that other person is doing and experiencing, then we can talk. Yes, there are times, extreme times, where it's 100 to 0. It doesn't mean that the 0 is that tzaddik, but a completely abusive relationship where it's off.
In that context,
it's right. There's a real perpetrator and there's a real victim, and there's no conversation. But most of the time, and overwhelmingly majority of cases, there is room to meet each other. Where do you meet each other? By finding the other person's personality, issues, opinions, perspective on some level within myself. What happens the moment that I find that within myself, I tone down. The other person sees that I do that. They can also tone down. When the moment things are toned down, there's conversation.
Ula Yeshleima, that when I see it in another person and I hate it, I'm hating the part of that that's in me. In other words, it's manifesting that I'm hating him, but ultimately, I so despise that part of my personality and I'm just projecting.
Right, that's the vart of the Baal Shem Tov, that when we see other individuals, it's a mirror. Right? Called Negoyim Adam Roya Chutz Minigay Atzmai, as Chassidus explains, that all the Negoyim, all those issues that we see by others, chutz, by those outside of us, Minigay Atzmai. It's a projection of yourself. Why is it that way? Because I'll call Pshoim Techasa Ave. If we would see all those issues within ourselves, we would not be able to exist. The amount of self-loathing and self-hating we'd be experiencing on a day-to-day level would be impossible to deal with. So we see it in others. But why do you see it in others? Why do you see something else in others that no one else can see?
And why no
one else sees it? Right? Does it trigger you? Right? So obviously you could come and say that you're a master psychologist and you see everyone's issues 100%. But then you would see it from a very impersonal place. If you would be on that, you'd see it from an impersonal place. And the only thing that would interest you and would motivate you by seeing that is, okay, so how can I help them? How can I be into a better place? But the fact that you see it and it gets you all sekratzt, and it becomes all personal and you get all worked up, there's something inside of you that's being affected. Find it within yourself and you'll be able to deal with the other person. Again, it's not only with issues, primarily in my Islam, you speak about issues. It's every perspective, every personality type. It's all there. It's all by you. Find it by you. That itself is a certain bittul. To be able to transcend your conscious self and find things deeper within yourself, you're able to deal with others.
Finish off with that exciting thought, and achayit in the Levi, take it to heart, and wishing you Kabbalah Satayla B'Simcha B'Pnimius.
Amen.